to CharityVillage Connects. Today we're exploring the critical need for charities and nonprofits to embrace technology and digitize operations in order to build resilience and thrive in the future. Joining me today is Daniel O, Country Manager and Vice President at Sage, an accounting and finance software company focusing on small and mid-sized organizations. Sage has recently published an important report about the digital transformation of the nonprofit sector, and Daniel joins us today to tell us more. So first off, Daniel, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of information about Sage, some background and the work that you do to support the nonprofit sector in Canada.
I would absolutely love to. So Sage exists to knock down barriers so everyone can thrive, starting with the millions of small and mid-sized businesses that we serve by our partners, us, and our accountants. And customers trust our finance, HR, and payroll software solutions to make work and money flow. By digitizing business processes and relationships with customers, suppliers, employees, banks, and governments, our digital network connects SMBs by removing friction and delivering insights. And knocking down these barriers also means we use our time, technology, and experience to tackle digital inequality, economic inequality, and the climate crisis. Sage and the Sage Foundation support Canadian and global charities throughout the world through local initiatives, programs, and fundraising efforts. And Sage Foundation provides funding support to initiatives that deliver assistance to local communities, fundraising and educational programs, and product discounts to eligible charities, social enterprises, and nonprofits through our MPO Success Program. And from a digital transformation perspective, Sage provides the tools to help nonprofits get the most out of their finances to better serve their communities and important causes. Nonprofits, we find, need more timely, insightful financial reporting to make data-driven decisions that drive their mission forward. And Sage InTech provides easy-to-create reports, dashboards, and visualizations that are real-time, allowing finance leaders and executives to look forward to plan for programs, fundraising, staffing, and more based on what's really happening today. We serve a range of amazing nonprofits across Canada, from those providing services to individuals with special needs and their families, to others supporting necessary care for children with complex medical needs and their siblings. Other types of nonprofits that we serve challenge and empower young people to live up to their full potential, to become leaders and make an impact on their community. And especially after witnessing the challenges that have been caused by the pandemic, we've helped many finance leaders realize that technology is not just a cost center, but rather an enabler that helps them generate more funds to support their causes. And by implementing the right technologies, we're helping nonprofits alleviate stress by automating a lot of their repetitive and cumbersome tasks, while also removing complexity and simplifying processes for their finance team. And interestingly, we're also hearing from more CFOs in the nonprofit sector that their role is increasingly extending beyond the finance function. They are helping drive operational efficiencies in IT strategy, particularly in transition to remote work. And finance leaders in nonprofits today are guiding organizations in making important decisions that will help them succeed in the future, from investing in the right technologies and attracting and retaining the best talent. So their roles are becoming more encompassing, more strategic, and therefore imperative to the success of their organization.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very thorough background to provide for our audience to understand the extent of your involvement in working with the nonprofit sector at Sage. In fact, you just recently released a report called Grow Together about digital transformation in the nonprofit sector. Can you give us a little background on the report and why it's an important resource for nonprofits, particularly at this time, especially during our post-COVID kind of recovery?
It's a great question. Our Grow It Together report on digital transformation in the nonprofit sector examined ways nonprofit organizations transform their operations and processes through digitization, and following the challenges that they faced through this pandemic. And the report provides insight into how the Canadian nonprofit sector specifically has been navigating uncertainties, overcoming challenges, and embracing the change to work better and better serve their communities so that we can grow together in this future.
So, what does the report tell us in terms of how successful Canadian nonprofits have been in undertaking and undergoing this digital transformation that's really necessary to deal with the current issues related to the pandemic and future uncertainties?
Interestingly, the report found that 9 out of 10 nonprofits are in the process of digitizing their operations or going fully digital in their operational processes. And this shows that nonprofits are leaning heavily on technology to gain efficiencies through business processes such as data collection, reporting, and organizational tools. And we're finding that technology is assisting the transition to remote work or has assisted it, and it's helping them save time through complications related to COVID-19 or digitizing financial processes that have already been proven to be beneficial to nonprofit organizations, including organizations that are just beginning their digital transformation journey.
What do you think the most important finding that the report revealed about the nonprofit sector and the digitization sort of transformation?
From my perspective, we learned that 43% of nonprofit organizations across Canada are forecasting a revenue increase this year, with almost half expecting at least a 25% increase. And the top 3 investment areas for these growth organizations are in digital or automated platforms, increasing in their marketing budgets, and hiring of skilled staff. So transformation is actually creating new opportunities. And the key to a successful transformation is to have a solid strategy and direction, to give their teams a reason to believe that they will overcome any barriers in their path. And priorities should be set and explained with clear metrics to set out progress.
Well, many organizations might still be thinking about digitization in terms of mitigating COVID impacts from the past 2 years. How can pursuing digitization assist organizations above and beyond the pandemic realities and the recovery that we're all going through? Why is it important that they think about digital transformation in a broader, wider way?
Although the pandemic accelerated the transition to digitized processes for Canadian nonprofits, internal barriers such as limited skilled workers, time consuming reporting, inefficiencies, and delays due to working with various internal systems, they all play a role in the need to implement digital processes. So, for some nonprofit organizations, technologies introduced in the last 12 months has given their staff new opportunities for improved collaboration, more efficiencies, and in some ways, new ways to serve their communities beyond the challenges brought about due to the pandemic.
We know a lot of nonprofits, well, many nonprofits have a hard time creating change within their organizations for a variety of reasons. What barriers prevent organizations from getting started with digitization, and what can be done to overcome these barriers?
Well, barriers such as the lack of planning and strategies to implement digital processes, programming and funding disruptions, and staffing shortages, those all present challenges for organizations that are looking to get started with digitization. But by investing in technology and digital programs today, that's going to create efficiencies in key processes such as financial processes, and organizations can better navigate and eliminate many barriers that have prevented them from starting this digital transformation journey.
So, if an organization is just embarking on the digital transformation journey, where do you suggest an organization start with digitization, and what are the steps on the way?
As nonprofits rely on funding from donors and partnerships, the ability to automate financial reporting was found to be a priority function for more than half of the charitable organizations that we spoke to, over 56%. And with 64% of them, financial processes are already completely digitized today. So our report found that in 2022, 4 in 10 nonprofits are planning to prioritize expansion of their donor base, build a digital presence on social media, and increase brand awareness. To achieve these priorities, their top investments will include the increased use of digital or automated platforms, increased marketing budget, and hiring skilled staff.
You have a great quote in the report that highlights that by investing in technologies, organizations are investing in less stress for staff. but we've all heard and experienced challenges with technology where a poor planning and implementation process actually made it harder on staff. What can nonprofit leaders do to ensure that they are rolling out technological changes in the best way possible for staff, volunteers, clients, and other stakeholders?
By keeping staff and stakeholders involved through consistent guidelines to help make necessary transformation and technology adoption successful, you need clear communication and explanation of priorities. You have to set measurable goals and metrics, and you really need strong employee engagement. And as long as you're collecting feedback throughout the implementation of these digital processes as they're rolled out, that's how you can help your organization, ensure they're implementing useful and reliable processes successfully. Also, having external support from vendors who introduce new technologies to nonprofit organizations throughout the process can help you navigate these digital changes, as it allows them to have access to reliable technology experts throughout the rollout, not just with the initial implementation.
Well, we all can learn from example. So I'd love to know whether you can share a success story of an organization that has, by implementing technology, has been better able to deliver on their mission.
I actually have three that I'd like to share with you today. The first one is an organization called Unity, and they are the partnership of three sister societies that work together to galvanize the development of diverse and inclusive communities. And in particular, the Semayamu House Society provides quality services to and support to people with disabilities and their families in British Columbia. And this is an organization that, through the implementation of Sage Intact, has improved their finance team's productivity by 30%. They've reduced their chart of accounts by 50x, and they've saved 20 days every year in intercompany reconciliations. And this has given them the room to scale and grow with less headcount as their nonprofit continues to grow. And they were able to find new visibility for development planning and create additional projections as their organization has grown. The second organization that I want to share is an organization called Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. And they strive to meet the growing, changing needs of people with disabilities and seniors. And this Canadian nonprofit accomplishes this through outstanding services, education, efficacy, and diversification of resources. And similar to the Semayamu House, they've increased overall finance efficiency by 50%. They were able to see and slash transportation costs by 22% and even reduce audit risk for their business by over 50%. And by doing that, they improved leadership confidence and were able to accelerate key decisions by having the information they needed at their fingertips. And then the last organization I would like to share with you is an organization called Room to Read. And they're an international nonprofit that has improved literacy in girls' educations across 20,000 communities around the world. And they've benefited more than 2.4 million children with a goal of reaching millions more through NGOs, and have experienced explosive growth, reaching 50 million in annual revenues. And after expanding to offices in 10 different countries, Room to Read's management team saw an opportunity to scale these efforts even further. And they implemented an accelerator model that involves partnering with local government agencies and other NGOs to bring Room to Read's expertise into new geographies. And this is an organization that has 25 different entities, 19 currencies, and they were able to streamline their consolidations across that in a very simple manner with Sage Intact. They also increased donor confidence through more specific and timely reporting, and they were able to easily scale their rapid growth through this productivity. 25% improvements in global field operations and global finance teams. And the software and the return on investment paid for itself, all within less than 6 months. So we're very excited about these organizations and their mission and how we were able to help support that through our solutions.
Well, Daniel, those are very impressive numbers, and what fabulous stories that you've been able to provide us. I wanted to close by really giving you a chance to look to the crystal ball and find out what you think the future holds for digitization of the nonprofit sector, and whether there's you could identify any important trends to our audience that we should keep in mind as we go through this process.
Well, the pandemic has pulled this sector into many different directions and it's tested organizations to their limit. And in the midst of this significant shift, the research from the Grow It Together report showed a consistent theme of readiness and optimism in the nonprofit sector for both the known and unknown challenges bound to come their way, and pushing them to rethink their operations and promising a bright path for the future. So my ask is really to consider and to challenge your organizations to continue to grow, to continue to leverage technology in ways that you haven't thought possible. And we'd be happy to help you through that process.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for your insights into the best practices for nonprofits to embrace digital solutions and technology to support their operations and help deliver on their missions. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Mary.